So welcome. We're gonna have another live. We're gonna be talking about the split. I think what's happening is horrific, obviously, but I think people might be crashing out with massive fear, and I totally understand that. I think that's part of the problem. Again, to remind you to chant Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva is the destroyer of blocks. So this is for your, to destroy your blocks. Om Namah Shivaya. Another one that I should do actually, it's Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. It's the feminine mantra of Durga to destroy blocks, to literally part the mountain in half, to split it in half so that you can walk through free to walk through instead of climbing and suffering and so forth. So these mantras help. They are really powerful. I keep saying that. If you want to look at these mantras, look up my playlist on abundance mantras and you'll find the Om Namah Shivaya. That's the one I recommend because it's easy to remember. It's not hard. A 3-year-old could remember it. You can do it. So let's talk about, what's his name? Bill. What is his name? I forgot his name. Oh, fuck. I should have written it down. Kelmed or Kelmead or the journalist on, I hate to say the word journalist, the journalist on Fox News that said he thought it was a good idea with the black dude that I was also sitting with him. And I don't know what that white chick in the middle was thinking in terms of, I don't know. I should actually get a closer look at her expression. But to the response that we should force mental health on the homeless and to force homeless people to accept the programs. I have some pretty intense experiences on these programs, and they're shit. And most women, homeless women, would prefer not to because quite often shelters and things of that place or homeless situations where they give you an apartment or whatever, right? You're in danger. There's all kinds of weird shit going on. There's all kinds of crime. There's all kinds of unhealed men who are, violent, okay? And it's not safe, especially if it's a woman with little kids, and she's a single mother. So there's a reason why homeless people in the East Coast and in the West Coast, up in Oregon and Seattle, would rather take their luck with the weather. We're talking about fucking below 25 degrees than go into a shelter. That should tell you a lot. But anyway, this piece of shit, he's a boomer, I'm ashamed to say it, said they should involuntarily euthanize them. And then he said the word KILLEM, meaning kill him. You imagine? Kill him. Just get rid of him. Like a cockroach. And I have to say that is quite shocking to me to be this repulsive and that comfortable. So here's the glasses half full philosophy that I've held on to, not with a white knuckle grip, but with ease. The split is right in front of you. You're seeing it. Okay? You've been on your hands and knees in despair, incarnation after incarnation, living as a serf. Let me point you back to Braveheart, one of the great movies about William Wallace, played and directed by Mel Gibson. Do you know why he marries her secretly in the woods? You know why? Do you remember? Let me remind you. He marries her in the woods, not because of her parents. He doesn't give a fuck about her parents. He marries her in the woods because if they publicly marry, what was done for 1,000 years called le droit du Seigneur, the right of the Lord, her virginity would be taken by the Lord of the land. And quite often the firstborn child was of that, okay? All right. So this was going on for at least 1,000 years. And this was protocol all over Europe, okay? So, and you saw what happened to him in the end of the story. But anyway, so why am I saying that? Well, because right now, and this is a small barbarity I just described compared to some of the shit we've been watching. Right now, the split, the very thing you've been begging for incarnation after incarnation, which was freedom. Freedom to marry, to love, to raise your kids, to pray to anyone you wanted to, as long as as long as the kids aren't being harmed, you're good to go, right? That kind of philosophy. Yeah, it's gonna happen. You're gonna be free. But before you're fully free, you are gonna be a witness to the split. And it's like, imagine the Grand Canyon before it became the Grand Canyon. On one side of a mountain is these demonic, crazy, deviant, greedy fucks. And on the other side are healers, healing facilitators, light bringers, people waking up, people on their healing journey, and so on. And then suddenly the mountain starts tearing open. And you guys are like freaking out, going, oh my God, is it an earthquake? What's going on? And it's scary. People are falling off, mostly from the demonic side, not the light side, because everyone kind of knows, all the healers, all the leaders of the light tell you, back away. It's going to get fucking real now, right? So you back away because you listen, because you trust them. Meanwhile, some of these demons are falling. There's laughter, because brutality and brutes like to see awful things happen to people. It doesn't even matter if it's their own kin. Okay. So what you're seeing right now is the split. And I'm giving you a metaphoric picture so you can kind of sense a sense of why. Because, if you're looking at it through a 3D lens, it's going to feel like we're losing our rights. We're losing people who are shifting. CK, I'm not going to say any more about, I'm not going to fuss. If you either know what I mean by CK or you don't. We're starting to wake up. We're starting to kind of move into asking the right questions. And when a person has been entrenched in the 3D world, greed is good, Gordon Gekko, and dog eat dog world, that kind of shit. And one day you realize I'm literally on a hamster wheel to fucking nowhere. I used to make $25,000. Now I make 50. Now I make 100. Now I'm making 150,000. Okay. And I'm nowhere near feeling at peace, because the more I make, the more I owe. You're not part of the group. I love George Carlin, who said, you're not part of the club. You're not. And he said he wasn't part of it either. Right? And to be part of that group, that club, right? You have to be in the nosebleed of monies, the kind of monies that would make you cry for 2 days and suck your thumb in a fetal position. You'd be in shock. I'm not even talking about 500 million. I'm talking about in the billions. You're not part of that club. And what's interesting about us on the other side of this mountain that is definitely cracking open and definitely separating the shaft from the wheat, the mud from the clear water, right? Is it scary? And you get to see evil without its mask. And of course it's scary. Of course it is. But isn't that fabulous? I mean, be excited. Holy fuck. They're not cloaked anymore. They're front and center. They're fucking absolute demonic consciousness. And I don't have to second guess. I don't have to look over my shoulder. I don't have to figure, well, who can I trust? They're just showing you who they are. It's fantastic. And if I were you, I'd be jazzed. I'd be wow, we're getting closer. This is really happening. And of course, unfortunately, and this is a true line, but there you go. It gets the darkest before the dawn. And if you've ever gotten up early to wake up to see the sun rise, that's a hell of a truth. It does. It's the strangest thing. It gets so dark you can't see shit. And then suddenly the light starts coming up this golden sherbet, orange, pink, violet. It's amazing. It's stunning. But in the beginning, as you rose to meet the sun, a half hour, 45 minutes before the sun was officially going to, start piercing through the horizon, it was dark as fuck. And we're not quite there yet, to be honest. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you, 2026. No, I'm not going to lie. What I am going to say you is that you still have time. I did a little video talking about 2025, which is 9. And it's a power number. It's you co-creating with the universe. It's you getting really real about using water as a conduit, as your ally. If you've watched my videos, if you follow me, you know exactly what I mean about how to use water, Veda Austin, the language of water, things of that nature, and being hyper diligent in your spiritual mojo, right? We talked about psyche and singularity. Right now, I'm like such a, and I'm not a Gemini, by the way, but I'm such a Gemini in that I literally have a pile. My son was laughing this morning because he saw a pile of books on the side of my bed, a pile of fucking books. And I'm reading this one, then I'm putting that one down, then I'm reading that one. So, but in our book club, we are going to be talking about psyche and singularity and going through it because it's a 1 year, it's a mouthful of incredible wisdom, intelligence, and showing us the mechanics of Susskind's string theory and the what's it called? The cosmic horizon. And what happens when we die, which is extremely important. How we die is as important as how we're born, is as important as how we live, how we love, how we are willing to look at our darkness, our regrets. I mean, seriously, you should make a list. I did. I made a list of all the shit that I really wish I hadn't done, the things I wish I hadn't done. And I went one by one. And to be honest, the list wasn't that long. I was expecting, 6 pages, 7. And again, it's not a competition, okay? If you end up with 10, that's not because you're bad. It's that you're maybe I'm not remembering as I should. But it's a really good exercise because what's hidden beneath your subconscious needs to be brought forth so you can forgive yourself, actually. And so that you can repair if the person's still alive or not and do it energetically. But the cruelty that you're seeing normalized, the concept of homelessness and how homelessness has been criminalized is really shocking. Apparently, they're now harassing people who have a van life, who's doing, they're doing content, they're doing van life, and they're doing van life because they wanted to save up money. Some of them couldn't survive paying the rent. And the rent would include electricity, water in some cases, and Wi-Fi, because in some places you have to have Wi-Fi because if you don't, you have absolutely no cell signal. None. So if rent is $2,100 for a studio apartment in your average, whatever place, and if you're in the middle of nowhere, rent is like $500-$600, right? That means that you're most likely not going to find a job, right? Because you're in the middle of nowhere. There's a reason why you're paying $600 a month. It's a rare thing, to be able to afford rent. And so many struck out in the world, sold everything they had, and liquidated because there's not a lot you can put in terms of possession, especially if you're traveling across country and, making money here and there, hustling and creating content and so forth. You're probably not going to have a lot of shit unless you have good friends that you can really trust or good family members and leave most of your personal belongings. Most people had to liquidate everything. They own barely anything. They probably own 3 pairs of jeans, a pair of sweatpants, a hoodie, some t-shirts, a dress or 2 if it's a woman, a pair of high heel shoes. I'm not going to go through the list, but very little. The amount of books I have, I would never be able to have a van life. Just to give you an idea. And so these people, that run the gamut of age from 20 to 75 had to do it out of necessity. Some of them didn't do it to create content, didn't do it to have the great adventure. They did it because there was no other way. There's a couple settlements up in the Mojave Desert. I mean, they're everywhere, but they're like broken down long buses, from the 1950s or 70s, and they rent out the space for like $400 a month, right? And they're in the fucking Mojave Desert, my friends. They're stuck. Okay? To get to a bank would probably take 15 minutes. There's one Denny's 2 miles down to walk. And I'm giving you an example of what I've actually seen. So it's impossible. When I was a kid in the 80s, I had friends that would rent a whole house for $1,200 a month, a whole house. It was a 5-bedroom house, 2 baths, sometimes 3. Each of them would pay, depending on the size of the room, $250, $400, $350. They all got along more or less, They all had about 2 fridges because they were splitting the fridge into, you get the picture. And that's how people lived in the 80s. Now, to get a house like that would probably cost 5 G's. What I'm trying to say to you is people who were paying $350 a month in a house like that, we now have people who still can only pay $350, but now they can't rent such a house. To give you, a sense of how nothing's changed, right? Except now they're asking 5 G's for the house, or 6. For a 5-bedroom? Yeah, definitely. And then it doesn't matter where you live in the world. So they've criminalized homelessness. What happens when you're homeless? Well, I remember seeing a young woman who was homeless. She was not in this country. She was in Europe. And she said that homelessness was absolutely fucking exhausting because she could never sleep. She never felt safe. And so that what happens is they're not eating well. They lose their IDs, not because they lose them. Sometimes they lose it, but most often their possessions are stolen with their identification papers, which is a birth certificate, an ID. You get the picture. And at that point now, they can't get food cards, food assist. There's no ID. They're a John or Jane Doe. And to try to get ID in social services is the most. It's actually laughable. Okay? So to criminalize homelessness is the most barbaric thing I've ever seen in my life. I have to say that the Victorian era, the Edwardian period, they were never that cruel. They had the poorhouse, right? But to say on public TV, right, Fox News, you fucks, that you would actually fucking not fire that man for saying that involuntary, finish the sentence, because I'm not going to. I'm not putting my account in jeopardy. I've said it once already. Involuntary, and then KILL, and then them, is outrageous. It's outrageous. And what's interesting, because CK, a lot of people are losing their job because of CK, and I did 2 lives on empathy. And I'm not here to kiss your ass, and I'm certainly not here to kiss anyone's ass. My soul is more important than your fucking opinion. What does that mean? I am not going to celebrate anyone's death, ever. Okay? Never. Not even a pedo, actually. I'm definitely not going to mourn them, that's for damn sure. But a pedo, yeah, if I saw that in real, it would be, I wouldn't celebrate. I erupt into cheers of triumphs, even for a pedo. And I'll tell you why that is, because I have to think about that. Because if you follow me in the last couple days, I mentioned, I'm working on myself. And so here's my answer to that as well. Because I know what it takes to create a pedo. It doesn't just morph out of fucking someone's ass. It's massive trauma. That's not to excuse those people at all, because I've been, unfortunately, I've been a victim, and I certainly have never done that, nor do I have any desire, okay? But if you've ever read the book When Rabbits Howl, which really spins it all out of the ballpark, because when you read that book and you realize what this young woman is remembering through hypnosis, right? And she's remembering what she blocked, damn near almost splitting, like Sybil was an incredible story about multiple I'm talking about, I think she had 20 personalities. All these personalities were important to her. They protected her. And that comes from serious trauma. So again, that's not to excuse anything, but I certainly wouldn't celebrate it. I would ask myself, what is wrong with our society that this is still continuing? Because the excuse of I was a victim, no, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Then get some help. Get a lot of help. Go into therapy. Never have children. And there are people who actually have decided not to have children because they're terrified. That's some serious honesty of ever doing that to a child, much less their own. And so they won't have children. They're tired. They're terrified of themselves. I feel like crying saying that. Because they're not sure what they would do. They're not sure if they would black out or what. So anyway, going back to that. So that answers that. So no, I would never celebrate anyone's end of life. Okay? I would cry, or I would be in shock. And I've been watching people's lives ripped out of their fucking free will to live since I was 8, because of the brutal films that I saw, documentaries, whatever, of the Vietnam War. I have images that haunted me for damn near 10 years, until I was 18, 19, until the new images where they replaced them, I'm not joking when I say that, quite literally. And I don't regret seeing those images, as I've said before, because it's made me empathic, compassionate. I don't celebrate someone's end. However, to fire people for celebrating because they're assholes, I'm going to be straight up. They're assholes. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm judging. I don't care how cruel someone is. I really don't. And so now I've answered all of the various characters that would still make me not fucking cheer. Yahoo! I wouldn't do it. What I find crazy, though, is that this piece of shit, Bill Clinton, or whatever the fuck his name is, that made that comment, is still employed. And people who were idiots, who should have been, I don't know, there's something in their brain system that should have, these are adults, okay? I expect that from teenage kids. Okay, I really do. Certainly not grown-ass adults, supposedly with masters and PhDs. That's shocking to me. So the level of stupid and the lack of compassion and empathy, and everyone's trying to argue their point. Oh, well, there's evil, and I'm like, shut up. I don't care what the fucking person was thinking. Okay, let me remind you. Malcolm X, people cheered. And Martin Luther, same. I said it already. A lot of these people that lost their lives too young, too soon, and literally the opportunity to change and evolve. I think back on myself when I was 31, and I am so not the same person. It's actually, I'm proud of it. Okay? But I do feel like maybe a write-up, a PIP, performance, you represent us, take the video down and fuck, don't do that shit again, Maybe you need some counseling, that kind of thing. But to fire them, but not fire this piece of shit saying, just involuntary, what are they, cockroaches, dogs? What's going on here? That is a problem. I have a problem with that. Because if you're going to fire those people who are clearly, lack introspection, lack the ability to go within and to think about what they're about to say, right? This impulsivity that we saw on Fox with this African American, shame on you, man, for being a man of color and fucking saying that. You're there's something wrong with you, man. And knowing that most of the people that are homeless, most of them are still vets. They're fucking, they fought for your freedom. And they never got the care they needed from this broken fucking system. And some of these vets are in wheelchairs, homeless, without a tent, without a car, without anything. And you think that that's an okay comment. You privileged fuck. And so that's a problem. I have a problem with that. That man should not be working. If we're going to just fire people for being impulsive, for having issues with their brain chemistry, clearly, because when you're an adult, if you can't say something nice, shut the fuck up, sit for 48 hours and think about what you're about to say and make sure that you will stand on that in 10 fucking years, because everything you say, and trust me, I've said things I regret. I've shared things I regret. But if I were to ever face something I regretted, I would either apologize, be honest about regretting it, or I'd still say with my full chest. So I'm careful sometimes, not as often as I'd like to be, but I try. And anyway, gloves off, 2025, gloves off anyway. But it was an immediate instinct for me when I heard about CK, and when I saw it, to not feel the need to run to my and decide that it was a good idea to, do a little happy dance. What the fuck is wrong with people? Seriously, I'm not joking. And to be honest, there's a certain group of people, and you know who I'm about to talk about, who are celebrating what's happening to the people in Gaza, who have and I've reposted on Instagram, I'll say it for my full chest in front of anyone, showing them barbecuing right on the fucking edge of the perimeter so they can smell the grilling food, while children are starving to death. That's some evil shit. And so I will never join evil. Not even for a minute. And yeah, not even for a pedo, because I would sit back and go, what a piece of shit. Yes. Wow, he's no longer here. Wow, what a waste of a life, man. What happened to him or her? Most likely him. What happened to him? What happened to him? Who did it to him? And how far back generationally does it go for? And do they have relatives who will, continue to pass on the torch of that kind of deviant shit? See, that's how I think. I'm looking at the long fucking game. But certainly I would not waste my time celebrating, with firecrackers and popping a bottle of champagne. No. And I've seen some shit that these criminals have done to babies that still haunt me, unfortunately. Like cases that went on national news and and I don't know why they do that shit, showing pictures, details of what happened to this innocent child that lost their life. And I've seen shit. Okay, so, but I would not go see their, and you can say, well, this person said that, and this, I don't give a shit what they say. That doesn't make me turn into an evil fuck. I don't care what they've said. I don't care what they've done. I am not going to become them. I will not become a piece of shit. Period. I will introspect. I will quietly sit with the rage that I feel. Right? Because, of course, you're going to feel rage on certain things. And that's an honest, but to feel happiness, that's not honest. That's a put on. It can't be honest, because if it is honest, then there's something not quite, there's something mechanically wrong with your processing. Do you understand? Because rage, I get impotent rage, like fuck, like you're pacing the floor of your house, going the mother, and just raging, ranting and I could see that. But happiness, the happy dance, no, I'm sorry, that's unhinged. That's some sick. That's a sick puppy. You need therapy right away. You need therapy. I don't give a fuck who you are. Now there are people that have come out that have said, I felt neutral. I will not, what was the term? I will not mourn. Who's asking you to mourn? Did anybody ask you to mourn? No one's asking you to mourn. Do you think I'd mourn a pet? No, but I would sit there with a situation. And with CK, did I mourn? No, but I was in shock. Introspective. What the fuck? And my whole thing as a spiritualist is looking at someone who in 1 minute, I'm repeating myself, I know, 1 minute they're breathing, laughing, blinking, and boom, they're gone. It reminds me of when a little girl first saw JFK, and I saw him go forward and backwards, and Jacqueline Kennedy climbing out of the car trying to find help, wanting help. And going automatic pilot, survive. Can you imagine milliseconds of decisions? Your somatic body's taking over. And I actually saw back when I was in my 30s, I actually saw the photos of RFK at the forensics. Detailed photos, which are shocking. And most of us who are Americans because I didn't live in this country when that happened. I lived in France. My father's an American, just in case you got a troll out here, who was a decorated soldier in World War II. And I'm proud of that. He went, I was there, but I remember coming to this country and learning about the story, because I remember I heard about Watergate, blah, blah, blah. But I remember feeling Watergate was the one thing that really hurt this country. I felt the chatter. I remember I'm 10 years old. I'm in my grandmother's apartment. Watergate just hit. And I remember as a little 10-year-old going, America will never be the same. It can't survive. It will never be the same. But that loss of the Camelot, this dream that I started learning about, living here. And I went into details with you guys on why she married Onassis and this and that, because I grew up with those stories in Europe. Onassis, Jackie O, blah, blah, blah. And the level of violence that this country has experienced is really, I think we've normalized it for way too long. When the first shooting that happened in Columbine, and they blamed it on the movie The Basketball Diaries, which was a bastardization of Jim Carroll's The Basketball Diaries. If you read Jim Carroll, his book on The Basketball Diaries, it has nothing to do with the fucking movie with DiCaprio. The Basketball Diaries, the book, is about a kid who's 16, who's hooked on H, whose mother can't fucking trust him. And you'll see that in the book. But what I'm saying to you, it's deeper than what they could ever put in a movie. Way deeper. And it's about S abuse. And what he had to do to survive. Why do you think I'm a sex advocate? Do you think I'm a sex advocate because I'm a freak? Because I want to, I'm ravenous about, no, because I understand that these traumas impact our entire fucking life. It impacts the way we're intimate. It impacts the way we connect with everyone in everything in our lives, how we treat our bodies, if we're in shape or not, if we're loosely sexually connecting with people who we don't even know their fucking name, much less we're barely, aware of what's happening, things like that. We're not respecting our boundaries, much less our bodies. It's because, like, for example, Gérard Depardieu's son, Guillaume Depardieu, who I adored as an actor, but he was absolutely destroyed because he said he couldn't get a hold of his father, okay, or so he says, and he's 15 in a train station in Europe with no money. And if you've ever seen him as a young man, he was absolutely gorgeous. He was a Botticelli come to life. And he had to sell himself to raise money to get the train ticket to get to where he needed to go. I'm not joking. A famous kid whose father was a famous, celebrated movie star. Instead of having a society, okay, like people like you and me, who would have seen the 15-year-old kid and said, "Kid, you need money? Do you need a sandwich? I'll buy you a train ticket. Where do you need to go? Let me get you a sandwich. You need a bottle of water. What's your dad's name? Do you know his phone number? Let's call him. You're not safe out here." What is going on in our societies? What is going on? And this is why we need to get really real about the beginnings of someone's sexual experience and understanding. Because kids are growing up confused, ashamed, and hiding secrets they should not hide. Afraid, terrified of not being loved by their parents, being judged. And do you know what? We have parents who would judge them and shame them and do and have. What is going on with our societies? We are laughing at the wrong shit and ignoring the most important things that literally creates a civilization. And ours is corrupt. And when I say ours, I mean the entire fucking global community. It is tainted, deviant, dark, and disgusting. Because we're not talking about what is normal, what is beautiful, what is healthy. We're not doing it enough. We do pockets, cry of freedom. Everyone's crying, and then no one says anything. It's been 2 years. Not everyone's story is cry of freedom. Sometimes it's just a little town with a little boy or a little girl, and the person who is doing this to these kids are the pillar of society. I work with clients who go through this shit as a hypnosis. And I can tell you, it fucks you up for the rest of your life until you can somehow put distance between you and it. But first you have to watch it, care for it, and grab that little boy or little girl who was hurt at that age, whatever age that was, and heal that little child and let them know it will never happen to you. I'm taking care of you. I'm here. Sometimes play acting moves like you coming in as the adult self to your little child self and kicking down that door and I'm not kidding. In this, beating the shit out of the person who did it to you, beating the shit out of them. And winning. Something in that act is to rewrite something that has haunted you, and this time you're the hero and you save yourself in ways that no one saved you. No one believed you. Or maybe you never said a word. These families that think they're Christian, that think they're devout Muslims or devout Buddhists or devout, whatever the fuck they are, these religions, right? You better fucking get real. Stop clinging to your fucking weird, entitled facade that you're so good because you're godlike. Being godlike is protecting the most innocent with information, with knowledge that empowers them, so that you show them what is honest and clean and healthy and beautiful. Do you know what parents say when I say that? You know what the average parent says? "Oh, I'm just so uncomfortable. I don't want to talk to my kid about, the sex because it's so weird." Is it weird? Is it? Then why did you have children? Why did you fuck to have a child? If it's so weird, why? Why would you have a child if you're not going to discuss with your child at the appropriate age how they got there and how it was fabulous and how it was beautiful? Do you see, the level of sickness? If you're embarrassed to show your 12-year-old, 13-year-old, and not show, say, You know, Tantra is something that they taught 4,000 years ago. And it was a way where couples who were in love would make love. And it was like yoga, you know, it was yoga for couples. It was like all this breath work and meditation. And it was like the unraveling of sensuality. I hope that one day you will meet a wonderful man or woman and you will make love like that. And you won't just be such in a hurry to just... But not selling, oh, keep your purity. Your virginity is everything. You know, you've got to be a virgin until you're married. And that's it. That's the entire story. And then some perpetrator walks in and fills in the blank that you as a parent refuse to fucking tell your kid because you were uncomfortable. Violence has a beginning. It starts somewhere. And though I'm no psychologist at all, you got to look at patterns. Foundational structures in a house are as important as a foundational structure in a son or daughter. They've done psychological tests, or rather stats, and you know, stats can be lied. I mean, we can't really always believe in stats because it can be manipulated. But anyway, this one seems to hit the mark where girls that are treated like princesses, you know, daddy's girl, that kind of thing, they end up being CEOs and mathematicians and engineers. Girls that don't have father figures in the way that is going to support them end up not accomplishing those levels of successes. Or so they said. I think it's probably true. That doesn't mean two people have to be married to grow a girl that's going to be a CEO or the founder of a major corporation. It's to say that the father needs to, like, I don't know, decolonize his brain on sexualizing every female. How's that for an idea? That means that you're appropriate. That means that if you're attracted to girls that are 14, 15, 20 years old and you're like in your 50s, you need some help. Because if that's a problem for you, then you are sexualizing people that potentially could be your daughter or granddaughter. That you need help for. I'm sorry, you need help. And you're harmful in the balance of healing the planet. Because there are millions, I would say there are billions of you. Men just like you. Billions. And now we see the results. And boys and girls are not safe with men like that. And that means that we have a very small number of men we can trust and we feel safe with who will protect us. But you're like a mob of hyenas. And you're harming. You're harming. You're not answering the right questions. You're shaming boys that are asking you questions about liking a boy, liking a girl. And I'm going to answer the question because I've answered it for my own son. You've had past lives as a woman. Of course you're attracted to men. But do you want to do X, Y? Oh, hell no. Well, there you go. Then I guess you're not, whatever. You talk straight. And if you can't do that, don't have a fucking kid. Because you're part of the problem. You talk straight. And you buy books that explain the biology of a body developing. And then you explain especially for girls, that there will be men who are way too fucking old looking at you. And your job as a mother and father is to let them know that they're safe to tell you and you'll handle that business. And you fucking handle it. We need to protect our children. Their sexual autonomy must be protected at all costs, because when it's not, and it's hidden, and it's stacked with more fucking weird shit from adults that are really unhinged and really think that, they'll forget or whatever, right? We are growing a population of unhinged, fucked up adults who will continue the cycle. So if we're going to raise good citizens on this planet, We need to start from the very beginning to protect them, to educate them, straight up talk, to show them. Okay? So that they can come to us if something happens and we handle that business. And they know that you're not going to go to jail if they tell you. Because see, some kids won't tell you. You know why? Because they're protecting you. Because they know that you will fucking go insane. They know that because you're a good parent. And you need to raise them where that part of you, they can never know. They can never know that about you. Because if you allow them to think that you're that badass bitch that will fucking knock that person with a, you know what, baseball bat, they will never tell you because they don't want mommy or daddy to go to jail. So as you raise a child, you have to be so fucking mindful. It's insane. Like all your truth on certain things like that, right? What triggers the fuck out of you, keep it under wraps until they're 18. And then they will come to you thinking that you'll turn the other cheek type of shit. And you won't betray your child, but you'll do the proper things that you need to do. Authorities, this, that, and the other. And you'll tell them that this is what we're going to do now. And I'm so proud you told me. I'm so fucking proud. We're going to take this person off the street now. Okay? Because there are two sides to this. Parents that don't believe their kids, parents that are idiots and are blind to what's happening, and parents that are so unhinged the kid's afraid to tell the parent because they're afraid they'll lose their parent to the system. Did you ever think of that? So moving forward as a society, and I mean a worldwide society, we have to make that our new approach to how we raise our children so that they are safe and they thrive and they have a healthy sense of their sensuality, sexuality, and all these beautiful things happen not to them, but because they want to experience X, Y, and Z, and they don't get confused and they're not pushed into other people's agendas. I'm sorry, I'm probably going to lose you right now. I probably will. You might even want to block me. But I don't think 5-year-olds should be looking at men in dresses, but most likely in G-strings showing their nether parts, okay, while they're dancing in front of a 5-year-old. I think a 5-year-old should be in a circle, learning about fairies and elves and gnomes and nature and butterflies and rabbits. Not to be your OBGYN or your looking at your nether regions while you're gyrating. I don't think so. That's not story time. And I'm sorry if that offends you, but I think we need to fucking pull back and let kids be kids and have the magic of castles and dollhouses and Tonka trucks. Seriously. As long as we can. As long as they're able to develop and thrive under the sense of being magical. You know? Unicorns. And what do you see? Oh, I see auras, mommy. Oh, really? What's mommy's aura? What colors do you see, sweetie? That cannot thrive under over hypersexualized adult agendas because they want to be woke. And there's a massive difference between woke and awakened. Okay? And it was great because there was a time when woke meant something until it was appropriated by the wrong nefarious forces, in my opinion. And if you don't like it, that's too fucking bad. I don't give a shit. I actually don't care. What I care about is the safety of our generation. I care about safety. Thank you, my friend. Peace be unto you. You could say the most hateful things while holding a book and then act like a high horse. Exactly. Yeah. And people do it all the time. They do it all the time. They hold these books. I agree with you on the subject wholeheartedly. Well, and you, to be honest with you, to me it's sad that we should even discuss that children are really, they look at this beautiful little face. I had like 3 different a girl, a little boy, and this little boy, and I chose this little boy because he's such a beautiful. Can you imagine dance? Like, can I tell you the first time I went to a strip joint? I was 18 years old. It was by choice with 3 other, my French friends had never seen it. They didn't even know pole dancing, shit like that. So we all went. We had cocktails and we had fun and whatever. I was 18 years old, okay? And I mean, I think about look, all I had to do with that conversation that I'm having with you is I sat there thinking back of me at the age of 5. And then I thought of my son when he was the age of 5. And that would have marked him. It certainly would have marked me, because here's why. Here's the psychology. Riding my first horse, I still remember that. The puppet show at the age of 4.5, I remember that. Do you understand what I'm saying? So all I had to do was put myself back into being a 4.5, 5, 6, 7-year-old child and remembering my son's experiences of being a child. And then I just morphed it into that kind of activity that they were pushing for the last 5 years. And I went, yeah, that's fucking wrong. I have been pro gay marriages in the 80s. And I'll tell you why. And I've said it, and there's a reason why. Because they're human, because human beings have a right to love who they want. Because I've seen men who weren't allowed to say goodbye to their beloved who they'd been with for 25, 35 years. You know, the family never spoke to their son who was gay. But the minute the kid this grown-ass man was dying of cancer or whatever the hell it was, that lover who had taken care of their son was not allowed to say goodbye. I think that's fucked up. So you may still not like me at all, because at that point now I've said something that may go completely against your belief system. Again. Okay? But again, I go back to the ancient warriors, okay? Where some of them were, one of their brothers, if you will, was, and when I mean brothers, is, in war as a soldier, hey, you're my brother, you're my lover. In some cases, they were lovers fighting in battles, in the ancient battles that we still study at West Point and other military academies. So I think there's a right place for everything. And 5-year-old children and 7 and 10-year-old children should not be, they're not fucking guinea pigs where we test out our little fucking social experiments. And psychologists who supposedly support that and promote, I need to check. You need help. I'm sorry. You need help. Because the most important thing, right? The first 5 years, they used to promote that first 5 years. Funny how that's no longer a thing. But anyway, the first 5 years is everything. It's discovery, it's safety, it's nurturing, it's nesting, it's magic. First 5 years. I would up it to the first 14 years. And we need to stop using our children as guinea pigs. And I think that that's why so many of us started homeschooling, because we weren't going to fucking put our kids through bullshit. We weren't going to do it. And ultimately, when you find out why public education was the way it was structured in the USA, just to remind you, Charlemagne, the great Emperor Charlemagne in France in the 12th century, made education public for his people in France. Now, I remember going to kindergarten and so forth in Paris, actually. And it was cut and dry. You were learning how to read. They had blocks and shit like that, and art and finger painting. Your regular shit, right? Your little outings on the park, all holding hands, whatever, right? Normal stuff. Why are we deviating from that? Don't we understand that violence is usually because people have suppressed trauma? It's trauma. And when they start going into, especially if they're successful, right? And and they start, they're like, something bothered. I just always have been depressed. Let me go into therapy. And then they go into hypnosis and they start remembering because shit's being unlocked, right? And it scares them. It scares them because they don't have family members they've ever had real conversations. I can't tell you how many family members where I have clients who have told me, yeah, I can't tell them that. Okay. I've never seen my parents fight. What? You've never seen your parents fight? Seriously? And that's a flex? There's fighting, and then there's abuse. Those are two different types of energies in a household. There's fighting, and then there's abuse. But I've met people who literally never saw their parents fight, couldn't imagine them naked, never saw them naked, never saw them caught him being intimate, never saw that either. I was like, what the fuck? What kind of household do you live in? I mean, like, seriously. You've never seen your father grab your mother in the kitchen and throw her on his lap and tickle her? Never? And nuzzle her neck and kiss? Never? That's not a good household. Because you see, children learn how to express love through you. You're the first teacher. And if you're teaching nothing, then they will not know anything. They won't know how to love. They won't know how to nurture a man or a woman. They won't know how to nurture themselves. They won't know when that's a good touch and a bad touch. They won't know. They'll just accept bad sex as part of, we're married. I mean, I kept my virginity, and they won't know bad sex. Again, watch the movie Kinsey with Liam Neeson, where they're both virgins until they're 40. That's not a flex. That's not a flex. And the deviancy, because I'm going to say it, I don't particularly like Kinsey, to be honest. I really actually don't. I remember watching the movie in shock. I thought, and then eventually they make love, and then they study about human sexuality in men, then in women, and how cool is that? And then I watched the end of the movie, and I'm like, holy fuck. They went straight up deviant. They got what I call turned out. And they never learned tantric sex. They never read Sir Richard Burton's translation of the Kama Sutra or the Perfume Garden. Never. I remember when I was about 14. Never. I remember when I was about 14, 15 years old, my parents had 2 red books. No words, just art, sensual, erotic art, from Neolithic, swear to God, all the way to the present, which was more like Picasso-esque with his, Picasso's erotic line drawings. Did you know that they were going to bring, this was about, I'd say almost 20 years ago, they were going to bring Picasso's erotic line drawings to New York City to show, and there was such an outrage, like such a, oh my God, no, it's erotic, what will like kids, it's like, are you okay? It's fucking Picasso's line drawings. The Parisian officials who were curators who were going to bring it to New York City gave up, oh, fuck it, let's just go to Canada. And that's exactly, they literally never showed the line drawings in New York. Swear to God, I'll never forget that. I think my son was 2, and I was like, what the fuck? So, we have to do better. And I remember telling, and I've told this story to you before, but I'm going to show you how sick we are, okay? So a friend of mine, I was like 32. A friend of mine, when I heard this story, told me that she had a new mother-in-law and they had a lamp. And it was a lamp of a naked woman's bust. Okay, well, you see that shit all over fucking France, Italy, Spain. You'll see that everywhere. It's everywhere, okay? And she said that her mother-in-law, I'll never forget this story, and I've said it before, her mother-in-law, instead of getting rid of the lamp, crocheted a vest and put it on the fucking lamp. I'm not joking. Instead of getting rid of the lamp, just saying to her dad, listen, this is offensive to me. Can we get rid of the lamp or can you put it in the garage? No, she crocheted a vest. I'm sorry. It's been damn near 30 years and I'm still laughing. I'm not joking. This shit fucking tears me because see, this is the example of wanting to be in a relationship with a man. Remember, that's her mother-in-law. So this is the second marriage. So this woman, just put your little tinfoil hats on. So this bitch pursued this man, wanted to get married because she said yes, wanted to have sex, I would assume, and yet could not handle nudity of an art form of a lamp and crocheted a vest. In other words, we have people walking this planet who will have sex, who will push babies out into the world, but will not want to discuss how these babies got there. They will not learn how to become better lovers. They will not read books on the subject to become more sensuous. Men refuse to learn how to be sensual with the woman. The woman will refuse to be sensual with her husband. They will lay there like fucking two doors on top of each other. Imagine two doors. It's ridiculous. And so we have a problem in the world. You know what I mean? So I agree. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. So anyway, when you say end times, you mean time as you know it, because there's no end times. It's a beautiful new earth that's emerging. And if you're like one of these dispensationalists, like I'm not going to cater to your rapture bullshit, which was created by Cecil Schofield. Okay? An alcoholic who had nothing to do. Star seeds. Okay, cool. I'm with you. Okay, star seeds. The star seeds, well, we're star seeds. We are, all of us, and many of these children being born. And they need to understand that when they get into these bodies, it's very strange. There was a great book written by Anne Rice, and the reason why it was great, it was called Queen of the Damned. It was part of the Lestat series, the Vampire Chronicles of the Vampires or whatever series. The reason why it was great because she wrote in how this soul was a walk-in into a soul. By the way, being a walk-in is a real thing. So anyway, this walk-in soul took over a perfectly good body, a 30-year-old man, 6'3", gorgeous, light brown hair, the whole bit, right? It's just a perfect specimen of a man. And how he walked into that body and took over, right? Not in a demonic way, in a very like, okay, I'm going to be immortal now. Okay, just bear with me. And the first time he goes to the bathroom and how he's in shock. And then the first time he eats a bowl of, like he's hungry, but and it's like driving him crazy. And he eats pasta and he's like, oh God, this texture, but I'm so hungry. And he's eating and then he's satiated. And the first time he wants to be intimate and how he can't eat. So imagine some star seeds have not been in these human bodies. They have not incarnated for like, I don't know, 5, 6, 700 years. Some of them 2,000, 3,000 years. They haven't been in the density of 3D in these human bodies. Whereas many of us are star seeds who, fell, if you will, into 3D and started going through the reincarnation wheel. And we've had thousands upon thousands of incarnations in these bodies. So it's all hat for us. It's like somatic memory, things of that nature, where some of these star seeds will feel like literally a fish out of water. It's like pulling a dolphin out of the water. And if you don't put him back in a half hour, they are going to expire. So it's interesting. Okay. So we have to be, hang on. We have to be cautious. You know what I mean? We have to be cautious with how we talk about them, And so anyway, let me see what else. Thank you, my love. Thank you. I want to make sure I can't pronounce your name, so I'm just going to reply so that you see it. I don't know if you hang on there. Thank you for that. I really appreciate you doing that. Any other questions or comments? Any other questions or comments? Let me see. So yeah, we need to do better as parents. We just need to do better. We need to just be more loving. We need to just be, I agree with you on this subject wholeheartedly. Some comments, peace be upon you, my friend. There was some comments that were, yeah, I mean, I do trigger people. I don't know what to say. I trigger people because they don't want to talk about the obvious. And the obvious is violence comes from somewhere. That was the point of and I got off track. Violence is something that starts from somewhere. And I'm going to read something to you which is completely unrelated, but in a way related, because it's something I've been following, okay? The Catholic Church was extremely violent, okay? And we know this. And there's this book, because I'm trying to figure out, where does it start? We know it's the root chakra that starts the problem, right? But I'm going to read something to you from the Cathars by Sean Martin. And the Cathars is a Greek term. One of my Greek people that follow me told me, and she reminded me, because it's in this book, that Cathar is a Greek word that means pure. And the Cathars believed in Mary Magdalene. They believed in the equality of women. That was a big deal. So I'm going to read you this, and hopefully it will inspire you to buy the book. It's called, so it starts in the flap of the book. Catharism was the most successful heresy of the Middle Ages, existing principally in southwest France and northern Italy. The Cathars believed themselves to be heirs to the true Christian heritage, completely rejecting the Catholic Church and all of its trappings and holding their services in fields, barns, and people's homes. In the fractious political atmosphere that existed in France during the 12th and 13th centuries, the Cathars gained support from the nobility in Languedoc and widespread popularity amongst the peasants and artisans. Their liberal attitude towards women, who played a major role in the movement, was not to be witnessed again for hundreds of years after their demise. They were absolutely slaughtered. Why am I saying that? Because what happened when the Catholic Church ruled the land, right? First you got the Romans, and then you got the Roman Catholic Church, right? What happens? Well, they insist, right, that you're going to be celibate, right? So now you've oppressed someone's natural instinct to want to couple with another human being, right? And so what happens when you suppress that? Well, it gnaws at a human being. And what happens is a weird desire emerges out of that human being. And that human being's weird, twisted desires falls upon the most vulnerable and the most innocent. So when we deny the truth, when we deny the beauty of our existence as human beings, we will create monsters. Am I wrong? Wasn't there some massive lawsuits against the Roman Catholic Church on abuses against children? I think so. And so the Cathars were an incredible sect. Again, and so let me continue. Alarmed, right? So first of all, they think women are equal to them. And women are allowed to be gurus like men are allowed to be gurus. What does that mean? Well, it means they're allowed to preach. They're allowed to talk about spirituality, about God, and so forth. So, alarmed by the movement's spread, the church founded the Inquisition and launched the Abel Jean Crusade, the first to be directed against fellow Christians. Did you hear that? They founded an Inquisition against Christians. Did you ever know that? Because I certainly did not. Which succeeded in exterminating virtually all trace of Catharism and was the first European act of Geno. Today, the mystic surrounding the Cathars is stronger than ever as historians continue to find links with movements such as the Knights Templars. I did a whole live yesterday on what I think really happened between Yeshua and Mary Magdalene and so forth. And if you want to watch it, you have to join my Patreon for free. And it's there. It's a link that'll take you to a special place to literally hear me, because I was actually downloading when it was happening, when I was talking about what I think happened, how I think they ended up in France, and why it was dangerous for them to remain in Jerusalem, Bethlehem, wherever Jerusalem. Let me continue. So the Council of Nicaea was the beginning, right, of the orthodoxy as we know it. And one of the best books you should read on the subject to kind of catch you up to why the Gospel of Mary suddenly exploded onto the world stage. Before that was a book that came out by Elaine Pagels called The Gnostic Gospel. And PBS did a show, I think it was a series, on that very subject, on the Gnostic Gospels, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary, and some other Gospels I can't think of right now. But heresy and orthodoxy, following the Council of Nicaea in AD 325, any teachings that did not accord with what was considered to be Orthodox Christianity was branded as heresy by the Church in Rome. Okay? And let me jump around. In some areas of south of France, Cathars were more numerous than Catholics. It was hardly surprising then that the Catholics moved against the Cathars. What shocked contemporaries was not that the Pope ordered a crusade to put down the heresy, but that the Crusaders committed atrocities of the magnitude of Béziers. In the Languedoc, these crimes have never really been forgotten. Strangely, considering its popularity, the exact origin of Catharism are unknown, but it emerged at a time when the Church and Europe as a whole was undergoing enormous changes prior to the emergence of the so-called Renaissance. By the way, I did a whole thing on, I'm going to stop here because there's something else that's come up. And I'm going to do a whole video on that subject. So there's a book called How the Irish Saved Civilization. And I asked DeepSeek, an AI system, tell me everything that was saved by the Arabic world, everything that was recorded by the Arabic world. And the Irish saved scriptures. They saved things like the Irish language. They were copying Irish language, biblical text, things of that nature. But I didn't know this. It wasn't the Irish that recorded things about Plato and Herodotus and Livy and Socrates and so forth. Though Socrates never wrote anything, it was actually Plato that would record what his friend Socrates was saying. On the side note, it was the Arabs. Let me just get to the point. It was the Arabs. 75% of what we know in the Western world today, classics of studies, was the Arabic world that copied everything that was relative. It said 75. So of course my next question was, what about the other 25? And that's when they went into the Byzantine, handled the rest. I'll give you more details. I'll actually do a whole video on that. And I'll literally read what is, it probably won't be a live, though I guess I could do it live on that, but maybe tomorrow I'll do a live on that, come to think of it, so that you guys can ask questions. But fuck. And what I found crazy today, so I'm studying a little bit, I'm not studying Aramaic, I'm studying the translations of Yeshua's words into Aramaic. Why? I want the truth, that's it. I'm not going to get baptized anytime soon ever, but I want to know. So guess what I stitched? Again, you can only get it if you're on my Patreon account. If you get on my Patreon right now, the people who pay the $9.99 a month, $9.99, get access to it, and in 5 or 6 days I'll release it to all my Patreon members, just so you know. But if you put the name of God in Aramaic, if you type out on Google, what is the name of God in Aramaic? I almost fell off my fucking chair. Do you know what it says? Allah. Al is the, La is God, Allah. So Yeshua would have said Allah or La. He pronounces it perfectly in the video I put together. So why is there such Islamophobic agendas? Why? Why? Why is there such a vicious need to conquer and separate us from each other? Why do you think I call God the one of 1,000 names, the one who created us all, the one of 1,000 names? Do you know how many fucking ways we have called this entity that created us all? This is why it gets irritated when people say, my God. No, it's God. It's not yours. It's not personally yours. It's your son. It's your car. It's your house. But it's not your God. It's God. And God belongs to every sentient being on this planet and all kinds of other realms and realities. So I think the Cathars thought in very open, they were totally against orthodoxy. They were against the trappings and ritualistic bullshit of prayer. They believed in real connection with God, Allah. And they believed in connection with brothers and sisters. And so, though it's a Greek name, Cathar, pure, right? It means pure. And the Catholic Church thought of them as incredibly devout. By the way, just so you know, when they slaughtered them, and they slaughtered everyone, the women, the children, they didn't give a fuck. Swear to God, the Inquisition. By their own admission, the Catholic Church was saying they are the purest of the pure. Swear to God. And still did it. Still did it. And it was a Geno. So what's interesting about the Geno that unfortunately you have to see, and again, we started out with the split, did we not? We talked about the split of evil. And we talked about where does evil come from? How does rage and this kind of unhinged shit come from? What is the foundation of how we raise our children? With empathy, with kindness, with their own autonomy of their bodies so that they feel safe. And so they know what's normal and what's deviant, right? So they can walk away from what's deviant and could harm them mentally for the rest of their life and walk into what is light, what is good, what was given by God, right? Because when we don't do that, what happens? We get fucked up people. Let's be honest, fucked up people. And so these Cathars, and I'm really pushing on many of you to buy these books. Again, it's a blue cover. It's called The Cathars, and you can get it on eBay for like $5. I swear to God, free shipping, shit like that. They're history and myths revealed by Sean Martin, like Martin. And I highly recommend, and it's a beautiful book, by the way, beautiful images and so forth. But it's like, we are back. I keep saying that we are back. We're seeing the split. It's fucking evil. You're getting to see evil. The thing with the Cathars, when they were being slaughtered, they didn't know what you know about evil. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like they knew, but they didn't know. It's one thing to kind of know hypothetically. It's kind of like a kid that wants to go to Disney, but it's never been to Disney, right? But they kind of know about Disney. They've heard of Disney, but it's one thing to know about a certain thing and then to see it front and center. And we are getting to see evil front and center. And it's being revealed in the most innocuous places. Places you would have never thought. From people you would have never thought they were that senseless and foolish to expose themselves that brutally to the world. And I'm sorry, no, you meant every word. Right? And so rather than panic and go, oh my God, it's the end of times and all this crap, I don't even want to hear that shit. What I will say is the end of times as you know it. But how happy have you been in the system that oppressed you for so long? Fucking never. And you've grabbed moments of nectar. Thank God it's Friday type of bullshit and things like that. There are probably books that you've wanted to read for years and you haven't been able to. There's probably a book you're dying to write. There's probably a painting you've always wanted to create, or you wanted to take on painting. Or maybe you just want to take photos of fucking birds. I don't know, whatever the hell, rocks your boat. But you never have time. And when you have time, you're fucking exhausted and you just want to decompress and watch Netflix and with a bowl of ice cream or chocolate cake. You just want nectar any way you can, just nectar, so that somehow your life means something. So I'm hopefully making sense where I'm tying all these things together, right? So if you were hurt as a child, you have to, you got to kind of like seriously take that seriously and go into maybe hypnosis with a hypnotherapist, right, to help you with that. And or just tell your little inner child that you've hidden away in the attic or the basement, tell your little kid it wasn't their fault. It wasn't your fault. And there are confusions about that I'm scared, especially with the new little policies they have, but that I don't want to say to you here. But again, I'm pushing as many of you on my YouTube channel so that eventually I can do a live and have like 10 of you there. And I can talk about that shit in detail so you understand what I mean by what children hold on to. And that inner child that's never felt quite right about what happened to them and never were able, you either never spoke of it or or when you did, you weren't believed, or no one took it serious. Like it's almost like they didn't give a fuck. And the steps you have to take so that can be purged out of you so you can move into your light, your full light. Part of the reason why people don't feel worthy of ascension is they carry some scars, these impressions, these albatross around their necks and their ankles and their waist. They're like, they're just riddled with shame. And it's funny how the Catholic Church made sure that we were riddled with shame, right? You were born in sin. Why? Because my daddy loved my mommy and had sex and I was made from that? Really? Born in sin? Okay. But meanwhile, again, to remind you, all the popes had side chicks with children out of wedlock. Or they had boys, just saying. So, yeah, who's the sinner now? You know what I mean? So, that's all I want to say. Hopefully, it made sense. You keep shorting out. Oh, well, anyway. We'll see how it plays out, okay? I'm going to go. I'm going to leave it there. And Davina, thank you for letting me know. And then we'll see if it shorts out when I upload it on YouTube. But if you want to watch this, it'll be on YouTube, okay? Sending you much love on your journey.